So 2024 was an absolutely phenomenal year for Souls-like and action RPG games. So what does 2025 hold, and what are the games that you need to be looking out for so you are prepared when they drop? Well, this video is going to cover the top 5 games I think you should be on the lookout for if you're into the Souls-like and action RPG genre. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, the first game on our list is going to be the Relic First Guardian. This is going to be an action RPG developed by Cloud Games and set to release in early 2025 on PC, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series X and S. This game is set in a once thriving world of Arsiltis, now plunged into darkness after the destruction of what they're calling the Great Relic. Players will take on the role of the last Guardian, tasked with gathering the shattered relic pieces around the world to close the void that threatens the very world you're in. The gameplay you're seeing is going to revolve around intense skill-based combat with a mix of exploration and puzzle solving. Players will develop their characters in a different way than we've seen before in most Souls-like, and instead of using a rune system, you will instead be leveling up with customizable gear, dungeon diving, as well as rune settings to personalize your combat style. Cloud Games is also projecting a very promising, rich story-driven experience as players uncover the mystery behind the destruction of Arsiltis while fighting to restore its prosperity. The combat of this game looks absolutely incredible, and there are going to be 5 different weapon types for you to use. Each one is going to have a skill tree assigned to it, and you are going to be able to unleash a flurry of attacks, the likes of which I have not seen in any other game, and the only other game that I've seen such fluid combat in is Phantom Blade Zero, which is also going to be slated for next year, but we'll get into that in just a minute. The Relic First Guardian is going to draw inspiration from the Souls-like genre with a dark fantasy atmosphere, challenging battles with NPCs and bosses, and will focus on exploration and sword-based combat. So for game number 2 on our list, we're going to be looking at Phantom Blade Zero. This is my personal top pick for what I think is going to be the best game coming out in 2025, but it's an upcoming dark action RPG set to release on PlayStation 5 and PC. Sorry all Xbox users. It's developed by S-Game, and the game thrusts players into a grim world filled with fast-paced and visceral combat, as well as a deeply woven story. You play as Soul, an elite assassin serving an enigmatic organization known as the Order. After being framed for the murder of the group's leader, you are gravely injured and left for dead. Soul is revived by a mysterious healer, however the revival comes at a cost, and the cure is only temporary. You will then only have 66 days to seek revenge before succumbing to your wounds. Set in the Phantom world, a universe blending Chinese mythology and steampunk elements, Phantom Blade Zero promises a dark, semi-open world where exploration and combat are intertwined. The gameplay is defined by the high-speed melee action combat inspired by Chinese martial arts. The combat mechanics focus on fluid cinematic battles that combine swordplay, acrobatics, parrying, strategic takedowns, and more. This game is also going to include powerful bosses with incredibly unique mechanics and amazing environmental attacks. While Phantom Blade Zero shares the DNA of most Souls-like games due to its challenging combat and dark aesthetic, it also distinguished itself by emphasizing fast, skill-based action more reminiscent of titles like Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry, which I personally am really excited for. The game has a handcrafted animation system for combat rather than relying solely on motion capture. This ensures the game feels deliberate and stylish and will set itself off from certain Souls like we've seen in the past. The game world offers a rich narrative experience with NPCs, side quests, and areas to explore, all adding layers to the overarching story of betrayal, vengeance, and survival that we will deal with in this game. The visual style is blending steampunk, as we said before, but also adding traditional Eastern aesthetics, enhancing the game's unique atmosphere. So far, we've only been shown a few trailers and a little bit of gameplay at Summer Game Fest, where Phantom Blade Zero was praised for its amazing combat and immersive atmosphere. However, like I said, this is my most anticipated game of next year, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Now for game number 3, we have Wuchang Fallen Feathers. This, in my opinion, is the most akin to Black Myth Wukong. If you enjoyed that game, you're probably gonna love this one. This is an upcoming action RPG set to release in 2025, developed by Lindsay Games and published by 505 Games. Wuchang Fallen Feathers is a dark supernatural Souls-like adventure set during the chaotic final years of the Ming Dynasty in China. It features a mysterious plague called the Feathering Disease, a disease that not only ravages the land but also turns turns people into grotesque abominations. This game's world is meticulously detailed, drawing inspiration from historical landscape and architecture of Imperial China. In doing so, it creates an immersive experience with haunting and beautiful environments. In Wuchang Fallen Feathers, the player controls Bai Wuchang, a warrior with a forgotten past, as she journeys across the land of Shu to uncover the source of the plague and the demonic forces rising with it. Our protagonist utilizes a diverse array of weapons and elemental abilities, including katanas imbued with fire and lightning blades, alongside with an unconventional tool like a flamethrower and a Gatling gun. The combat within this game is intense and fast-paced, much like we've seen in Phantom Blade Zero, incorporating acrobatic movements, magical spells, and brutal execution animations. The game emphasizes challenging Souls-like mechanics where strategy and timing are crucial to survival, particularly when facing the game's nightmarish enemies and colossal bosses. The bosses themselves are grotesque and imaginative, from towering skeletal figures with crow wings to monstrous creatures resembling giant clams or spiders. The combat takes cues from games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, with focus on deliberate attacks, dodging, and exploiting the enemy's weaknesses. In addition to its complex combat system, Wuchang Fallen Feathers places heavy emphasis on the story and exploration. The narrative is layered with mysteries and supernatural elements, as well as historical context. As players explore the war-torn region and plague-infested villages, it also promises stunning visual fidelity. This game is going to be releasing on major platforms including PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, with a day one inclusion on Xbox Game Pass, which I feel is a pretty bold move, which we saw with Lies of P, and it worked incredibly well. The fact that this game will pretty much be free to play for those people who have Game Pass at launch, I think is going to help this game succeed and be one of the biggest titles of 2025. Now for our fourth game on the list, we have Ballad of Antera. This game is a dark fantasy action RPG slated to release in 2025, developed by Tipworks and published by Infold Games. Drawing heavy inspiration from Eastern mythology, the game promises a vast, lore-rich world that spans two distinct realms: the familiar world and the mysterious Para, an otherworldly dimension filled with all kinds of monsters, dangers, and a ton of lore. This world has been devastated by a mist-like calamity, and players must uncover the truth behind the phenomenon while battling divine creatures and reclaiming lost essences. The main gameplay focuses on controlling characters known as emissaries, who possess unique powers and abilities tied to elemental essences. These characters are crucial to the story, each offering distinct gameplay styles and narratives. Combat is fast-paced with heavy influences from the Souls-like genre, emphasizing parry and strategic engagement to make sure that you can outsmart your enemy. Players can switch between characters during combat, adding an additional layer of depth to both tactics and storytelling. Multiplayer is another key aspect, allowing for up to 3 players to team up and venture together through the perilous lands of Para. The co-op mode is expected to include shared exploration and quests, offering a unique twist on a typically solo-focused Souls-like experience. Obviously, as you can see, visually the game is reminiscent of titles like Black Myth Wukong, blending a rich atmospheric setting with polished action sequences. The dark and foreboding world design is paired with engaging narratives involving mystery and survival. After launch, the developers plan to continuously update the game with new emissaries, story content, and zones to keep the world evolving. I think out of all of the games I've listed so far, this one could potentially release with the most problems, as anytime we've seen some form of live service game, there's typically a very rough launch, and players end up complaining that there's not content coming out fast enough, so we will just have to wait and see what Ballad of Antera holds. Now, AI Limit is going to take the last slot on our list of top 5 Souls-like games coming out in 2025. This action RPG is slated to be released at the end of 2024 or early 2025, and it's being developed by Sense Games and published by CE Asia. It is part of a PlayStation China Hero project and will be available for both PlayStation 5 and PC in the Steam store. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where players control Orisa, a blader who is a bioengineered warrior created to survive the world ravaged by a mysterious disaster known as the Collapse. The gameplay draws inspiration from Souls-like mechanics, featuring difficult methodical battles where players must time their attacks and defenses incredibly carefully. Orisa has access to a range of weaponry and magical abilities thanks to her left-hand mechanism that channels the spells. The weapon skill system is highly customizable, allowing players to mix and match abilities to fit their playstyle. As Orisa defeats enemies, she increases her sync rate, which powers up her attacks and defenses. The combat involves not only mastering weapons, but also using strategic magic and mechanics to take down foes. AI Limit's story delves into the themes of identity and purpose, as Orisa's journey reveals the truth about her origins and the larger implications of her existence as a blader. Throughout the game, players will encounter other bladers and some who've driven into madness. You will have to decide as Orisa who can be trusted and who cannot, and boss battles will challenge players with large-scale enemies such as powerful warriors and and mechanical killing machines. So pretty much par for the course for any Souls-like game. But guys, there we have it. That is going to be it for the top 5 Souls-like action RPG games that are coming out early and late 2025. Let me know if there's any games that I missed that you're incredibly excited for, and what games you're currently playing now. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification on your way out. And until next time, stay safe, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next one.